Welcome to the HOD podcast. This is episode number 1. I'm Cecilia Reinaldo, and I'm the CEO of Homeowners Direct, HOD.co. And who is joining me here today is my partner in crime, right-hand man, Martin Altmann, our commercial manager. And today what we want to do is we're trying to demystify a little bit what we do, how we can help consumers, and where we're going with this in the journey of this company. Welcome, Martin.
Yes, thank you, Cecilia. I think we're going to start off talking about the past because Cecilia and I didn't meet through HOD.
No.
We actually met 8 years ago. So, Cecilia, could you care to elaborate on that a bit?
Yeah, it's actually a good story because Martin used to be my competitor. And I came across, we're both brokers, right? We come from the real estate industry. I'm in real estate since 2004. And when did you start?
2011.
Right. So at some point our paths crossed. You were quite a challenging competitor, and you called my attention and said, there's something about this guy. I need to keep a close look on him.
And even as competitors, I channeled so much business through Cecilia, and I always ended up dealing with her directly. It's we worked very well together as competitors.
Yeah. So when I was elaborating the company with our co-founders, I had you in my mind, and I said, okay, let's have a coffee, and I explained the concept. The thing is, with the concept, when you talk to a broker or ex-broker, they go two ways, right? Or they absolutely hate it, or they actually understand and they see the value. So what were your thoughts when we first met and I explained to you what we were trying to do?
Well, as you recall, I left real estate when my current employer had moved back to the UK, and then I went into e-commerce. So I was already kind of doing the online thing because I said I didn't want to be a broker anymore. So when you approached me, I was like, okay, you know what? This is a really good concept. I enjoy working in an e-commerce environment, so I feel that there's a lot of potential for that in this industry at the moment. I mean, the UAE is really pushing forward on technology, so we see it a lot in government. So I love the idea, and that's why I said to you, look, as soon as you are ready to proceed, let me know. I have a 1-month notice period to serve, and then I'll come jump over and join you.
And it's been now a year since we started.
A little bit over a year now.
Yeah, a little bit over. And I think we've managed to achieve a lot. So, but let's go down further and explain what we actually do.
Yeah. Well, would you like to tell us a bit more then about the concept of HOD? What if you had to describe it in a few sentences?
Yeah. So we are a PropTech marketplace. We connect property owners direct with buyers and tenants. In addition to that, we have saving ecosystem where, I think what people get lost sometimes in property transactions is that you don't stop with the financial investment just when you buy or you rent your property, right? So you're going to have to appoint cleaners, you're going to have to eventually do your will, and everybody participating in the ecosystem is part of the platform. So what we really want to do is bring the value added to the consumer by giving them as much content as we can, and at the same time saving them as much money as we can.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it is developed in such a way to have a self-sustaining ecosystem where everything related to property can be found in one place, which is one thing that I really loved about it as well. It's like not just, okay, buy, sell, disappear, but managing the whole process, the aftercare, everything is all there available for consumers to tap into. But then now talking about the human element, I mean that's something you come across quite a lot, right? Is the country ready for this kind of technology, removing humans away from needing to do it and allowing people to interact directly? What are your thoughts on that?
I think I need to go back to where the concept started. I think in terms of marketplace, there are different marketplaces in different industries. But I really felt there was a need to empower people to take decisions and do whatever they feel was best for them. I think there was no viable option before. You had to go through a broker, not because you had to technically do it, but because I think people wanted the security aspect of it. But now with the paperless strategy, blockchain coming into place, the actual transaction domino is going to be so much simple. So it comes down to the marketing of thing. How do I connect someone with my property to a buyer and as a landlord, as a tenant? So again, in the past, people would rely strongly on real estate brokers to do that, and still do, because there are companies who do a very good job. But in reality the industry itself is it's a bit complex, and a lot of people want to have the choice to do things on their own, do the marketing strategies that we can offer by themselves, and they can do both. They can do just with us, and that option is an option that the marketplace needs to give, as opposed to you only have one option. And through time in the industry, I realized the amount of insatisfaction that the consumer was having through transactions, regardless of the size of the company, regardless of what the problem was. But I always felt people didn't feel value for what they're paying for. So if you don't feel value for what you're paying for, you need to have an option to do things on your own. And that's where we come here. Look, it's very simple understanding. People make decisions today to go to restaurant A or B based on the voucher they got on their phones. They will go to retail stores and buy an ensemble bed and, spend the time to build just because it's probably cheaper than going to, store B.
Yeah.
So people are ready, in my view, to take that decision when it comes to real estate and take things in control on their own, especially because it's their money, it's their emotional connection, just not from selling, but from buying as well.
Yeah.
So I really feel that is a viable opportunity to make that connection. I think the consumer will really benefit from it.
No, I agree. And it's one of those that I know I've discussed with you before. HOD isn't... We have just created a marketplace where people can all list direct properties. You could spend your time trawling through the internet to find direct properties. They did exist. They existed before we came along.
Sure.
We're just creating one place for them all anyway. So it's not like we're removing humans from the transaction. We're just giving those who want the ability to be able to deal direct the opportunity to do so.
Yeah, and the element of I get a lot from the industry rather than the consumers that, you need the human element to do things. I think it's questionable now because, as I said, if the transactions are going to be on the blockchain, it's going to get very interesting for you and I to transact without having the dollars to go to somebody else.
True. Yeah, 100%. So what would you say HOD is doing to add value to the current market?
I think we obviously work on a B2B level. Obviously, we have developers on board and we have the suppliers who give that extension of the ecosystem to the consumers. But from a consumer point of view is the empowerment. That's the number one. Obviously, commission plays a big role. I think buyers and tenants, they want the option to save as much as they can. But from a seller point of view, we provide them obviously distribution of the listings. We give them the ability to do the technology that they crave. I find it incredible that even at this day and age, only a few agencies are deploying technology like virtual tours on 10 million dirhams properties because they don't want to spend that money when it actually saves them time. So many times I see the consumer saying frustrated, and actually recently we have a very interesting story of a seller who listed the property on the portal. He obviously been communicating with me all the steps. He's been in the market already for over 6 months trying to sell the house. He was extremely frustrated because his property, he done more than 1 million upgrades. And a lot of the villas here are kind of the same layout, very shell and core basic. So a lot of people have invested tons of money in upgrading, putting pools and so on. So he used always to come to me almost as a friend to say, look, I don't get it. The people will come to me, the brokers will come to me and tell me this is the value of my house. And it was in the case around 3 million. When there is more than 1.5 million in upgrades. The price they're quoting me is for a villa that is as empty. There's nothing. How do I turn this around? Yeah. So anyway, we said, okay, come to the platform. We'll do some marketing for you, do some social media. He actually got a buyer. The buyer came, did an offer. He closed the deal, and he actually got 400,000 more than what he was quoted. You can argue to say, well, it was not a good deal for the buyer. It was because the seller was able to elaborate to the buyer, say, look, I spent 1.5 million. You're paying 400,000 more for that 1.5 million, right? And you're mortgaging that 400,000. Yeah. You're not having to pay cash to go and spend and build the house again. Yeah. So it made sense for both parties, and I think that kind of discussion, communication, you don't see happening because when you have people in the middle, sometimes they are there to protect their financial interests and not necessarily what the parties want. So I want to see those conversations happening. I want to see people to be able to make those decisions that are good for them, not what's good for people in the middle.
No, I agree. And it's, again, you think that the owner of the property themselves would be more passionate about their own property. So they'd be able to, as you say, elaborate and really show the value of what the property is. And it's something that is missing in a lot of cases. I wouldn't say all. As you say, there are still good brokerages and stuff out there. But it's being able to communicate something yourself, you are a lot better talking about your own thing than somebody else would be. And we're just empowering people to be able to do that.
Overall, the industry will evolve. Brokers will get better because they're going to be pressurized by the technology and companies like ours that are going to be question their existence. And the consumer as well is going to win in the end, because if they choose to go through a broker, they're going to probably have a much stronger and better service. But if they choose to do things on their own, they're going to have options. And I think that's the very defining moment that we see now when it comes to technology and real estate.
Yeah. So on the back of that, where do you think the market is heading then?
Difficult question. I think we are in a space in the UAE where the government is extremely proactive when it comes to technology, and they're going to do lots. And as I said earlier on the podcast, I think blockchain is going to be a very key factor that will ensure transactions are faster. People not necessarily going to need to come to the UAE to transact, would remove all the paperwork and the concerns of security and trust. So again, I think we are at very interesting times where value is going to be the brand.
Yeah.
So if we bring value to the consumer by offering our services, the broker brings values, bringing the service, it's the consumer who make that decision. But I think it will get easier and easier for people to transact in real estate, not just in the UAE, but worldwide through technologies that not necessarily will force you to come and do the viewings, or force you to go and actually sign the paper. Everything will be done electronically, and that's where we are heading. So I think consumers will definitely going to be the ultimate winner long term.
Yeah. I mean, the human element is being removed a lot in terms of technologies across every industry. It's across every industry. Anywhere, machines will always be better than humans in terms of calculating numbers, but the human element will still be required to educate the machines. So there will always be the need for human element. But I feel that, as you say, with the government pushing a lot back on technologies as well, I mean, it's across all governments. They're rolling out apps and everything to control everything. Police have an app you can download, RTA, like everything. So, yeah, I think that the UAE is primed and really driving its population to adopt technology. So I think there's a lot of exciting things coming in the future.
Now I know, and I can't wait. We're very excited to be able to provide consumer that information, that content that will allow them to make better investment decisions, better understanding to where they're going with their money. And I think the more we can give, the happier we'll become, because we'll get genuine interest in terms of which clients want to use our platform, and the ones that I think what I'm trying to say is, in the end of the day, it's all about time. Do you have the time to do all those things on your own? Then if you do, then we are a great solution. If you don't, you're always going to depend on somebody else to do things for you, but you're going to have to pay money for it. So it's a decision that the consumer will have to do, not the industry, because the industry obviously discuss a lot about the importance and how they should be around, but the consumer will be the ultimate winner, and that's where we shall be following.
Okay, great. Thank you all for listening, and I hope this podcast gave you some insight into HOD. If you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe and leave us a comment if you're using the Apple Podcast Store. Cecilia, thank you for your time.
Thank you for listening, and I'm always available if anyone ever want to get in touch, ask me questions. My email is Cecilia, CECILIA @HOD.co. I'm all up to help people and give them some tips to how to do things when it comes to real estate. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys on the next episode. Thank you.